Merry Fragments of Silicon's.
All right. Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, the last regular show of the year, not season. No, we're about halfway through the season, if I'm remembering my episode count right.
Yeah, and I think because of the hurricane, our seasons are off kilter now for a little while anyway.
I, I'm like, um, I suppose that would require the, looking at, fine tuning and all that. Who cares?
I mean, what is a season, really?
Well, that depends on your definition.
Right.
Anyway, we were originally supposed to have a guest here. Ran into some complications in the pre-show, and that appears to not be happening. I mean, we were supposed to literally start with a guest. We only had like a half an hour, and we got started late due to comfy couches. Like, it's like also.
Yeah, I will say it's nothing on the guest end. It's just because when you started that, it made it sound like we had a problem with the guest, and it's like, no, that was entirely on our end.
No, yeah, it was our fault. You know, as far as having Jeff on the show, I have no idea. Like, it's like rescheduling.
We'd like to reschedule, but that means we have to get a hold of him to reschedule.
Yeah, it's like also we literally do not have anything open on a Wednesday until February. So if it's something that wasn't really meant to be, the bit larger issue was more the thin margin of time we had to work with here. Like, so it goes. Like, it's unfortunate, but if it doesn't happen, in an ironic turn of the phrase, nobody's going to lose sleep over it.
I see what you did there.
Things happen. Sometimes start late, but oh well. It's like I don't think anyone's going to be, too concerned. With that in mind, let's get to the news. Twilight, why don't you start us off?
All right. Well, we've been having some rain over here. Yeah. At least it's not snow. Work has been plenty busy since this is the week before Christmas, and not as bad as I remember it being in the previous years. Yeah, that's good. At least, still need to get some shopping done concerning Christmas dinner. Got all the Christmas gifts shopping done, thankfully. Let's see now. My birthday's coming up. Been getting some both birthday cards and Christmas cards in. It's kind of funny since my birthday is literally on Christmas. Not much else going on. I finished up Kingdom Hearts 2. I'll be moving on to Birth by Sleep.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, it's the only one out of the three that I plan on playing. I haven't played yet. So no relying on my fuzzy memories on that one. And that's it for me.
All right. Alex.
One second.
God fucking damn it, Galax.
And a mouthful of chocolate. Sorry. Well, today was my last day of work for the Christmas season. I'm using pretty much the rest of my vacation time to take off through the new year, so that's gonna be nice. Hopefully, I can get some stuff taken care of around the house, in addition to having some time to relax and stuff.
Relax? What is this? This is foreign to me.
Mm. I actually just purchased my last Christmas thing online at Amazon because I looked for it in the stores that I go to because I like patronizing local places, but they didn't have any. And I've mostly been playing Smash Ultimate, and I am right about at the end of Adventure Mode, and I still haven't played as anyone but Kirby. Um, Hopefully later this week I'll be able to hang out with my friend who's home from college for the semester break, so I'll be able to do some actual versus play. And that's about it for me, I think.
All right. Well, Betty, you're up.
Well, let's see. Monday, I saw my doctor about my knee again. They did I believe it's a cortisone injection to hopefully, because apparently what's going on is there's a tendon in your knee called the IT band, and because of my cerebral palsy, that was getting pulled really, really tight and started to develop scar tissue. So the cortisone is to hopefully try and help break that up and reduce swelling, and hopefully I can walk on it better.
And how's that going?
Not great so far, but they just did it like Wednesday or Monday, so technically I should still be trying to stay off of it if I can, at least till tomorrow morning. And then if this doesn't help, because I go back in about a month, they're going to try some kind of pain relieving gel. And if that doesn't work, then I get to go talk to a surgeon. So that's going to be fun. As far as other personal stuff, I believe Christmas shopping should finally be done. I ended up having to borrow the money from my sister to get the last of my gift for our mom. And I can't think of anything else offhand we need to get. So I think I'm done. Free from the beast for another year. And also, one thing I did ask for Christmas is a network switch. So hopefully I can get better streams from my PS4 with it being able to be hardwired now. Potentially, if they actually got it for me. So when Kingdom Hearts when 3 comes around, I will try and stream it, assuming Square doesn't do any of that stupid bullshit they did with 2.8 where they locked the sharing feature.
Well, even then, you can still share your gameplay. You just won't be able to have anybody know what happens in any of the cutscenes.
Well, no, like I know Persona 5. They locked it entirely. You couldn't even do anything if you hit the share button. Indeed. It just says blocked.
That's an interesting choice.
Well, it's
go on.
I was gonna say it's because there was a big spoiler thing, and they didn't want the story spoiled. Even though capture software can get around that block real easy, so it's just kind of a hindrance to people like me who don't have capture software. But we'll figure it out. And as far as other gaming news, I think I'm almost done with Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, which means I'll be free from the beast till January. Almost there. I'm in the final world. And oh
What
right.
distance have you dropped your dreams?
Don't worry about it. It'll be depressing if you find out. Also, one big thing about Final Fantasy XIV raids, we finally beat Midgardstormer.
Hmm.
God, that fight's a
And
bitch
what
and a
stage
half.
of what is that?
He is the second turn of the Alpha Scape, the fourth tier of Omega.
Okay.
So yeah,
And
we
remind me again. I know I've asked this, but have you actually fought the Omega thing?
Omega we are fighting next when we get back to
Okay.
it. Because they do a weekly
The
walkout,
actual
a weekly
four-legged robot death
Yes.
machine thing.
Yes, there is actually a highlight on the channel if you want to see us get our asses beaten by him. And yeah, the thing that sucks is there's a weekly reset, so we have to beat Midgardstormer again.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fun Thursday and Saturday. But I guess that's it for me.
All right, I guess it's my go. Yes, originally, as mentioned before, we were supposed to have an interview tonight with one Jeff. It's like Mendocino, I believe that's how it's pronounced, of Maximum Games. Unfortunately, well, it's like, truth be told, I accidentally fell asleep right before the show. Woke up, like 15 minutes late, and unfortunately, the window of opportunity had vanished because, tight time. It's like the one time where we have really tight timing, and that happens because it's rather cold outside. It's warm in here, and my couch is very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just glad I woke up, in a reasonable amount of time to start things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, did send a message to Jeff, seeing if we can't reschedule for sometime in the new year. Although that will have to be on a not Wednesday, because all of those are filled for January. In fact, like, let me see, the first Wednesday slot we have open is February 13th. Yeah. I'm like, sometimes these things get filled fast, sometimes they get filled slow. This was one of those, it got filled fast. And, it's like, I do apologize. We do strive to have those things not happen, but, sometimes they happen. Very rarely, but, in fact, this might be the first time that's happened, or at least the first time in a long while since, lateness has caused this kind of thing. But
I think the last thing that was kind of close was I accidentally fell asleep during the post show and didn't end the stream correctly.
yeah, like, it's also because things have been winding down. Like, this is the last, this is the last show of the year outside of New Year's. We will be having a New Year's stream,
As is tradition.
Yes. And we will be showcasing the game Zeus Battlegrounds, an early access battle royale game. Should be chaotic fun, or at least chaotic. So, well, it's like, if the interview happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I mean, it's not, it's not like we're mortally wounded here or whatever. I mean, maybe not the proper thing to say, but that is the reality of the situation. It's not like missing an interview will affect any other interview. But I do want to be upfront. Yeah, totally our fault. It's like I doubt Jeff is listening. Whatever he had to do, he is doing, I assume. And I'll probably hear back in the morning or so. So, we'll probably have an update on this, but that update will probably come, if not on New Year's, because that's not a regular format show. Then when we come back from the holiday.
Well, also social media.
Yeah.
If you let me know, I'll also see about putting something in the Discord.
Right. But yeah, it's been a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also of note, Kevin is already on vacation. In fact, he's literally on the road right now, so he's not going to be joining us for our post-show festivities this week. He'll be back next year. So just wanted to throw that out there. As far as the rest of the news, nothing nothing really going on. That's kind of how it goes right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the show and the production, it's about the quietest it ever gets, because everybody's kind of clammed up for the holidays.
Yeah, people are taking their vacation time off.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the reason why we don't have a show Christmas, New Year's week early.
Yeah, I'm like, and it can be, annoying when you've sent out communications and you're probably not going to get responses to those until at
The
least
new
until
year.
after the actual Christmas, if not after the whole holiday season. If I see I'm rambling a lot, well, we have time to fill.
We have all of the time to fill.
Yeah, it's like, we've gone from having, surgical pressure to no pressure at all.
Meh, as long as we don't pass out.
Yeah. It's like, and as far as when we come back, well, we're actually coming back with a guest on January 2nd. Actually managed to find a guest that close, to. Sometimes that happens, sometimes that doesn't. And also our traditional year-end review retrospective will be happening when we come back.
God, we reviewed a lot of games.
Yeah. Well, we did the count, and we appear to have reviewed 108 games this year.
Buddha would be pleased? Question mark.
I guess.
Would this be after his road trip with Jesus to Earth?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're going for here, but it's like I'm not sure how much the Buddha cares about game reviews. But yeah, it's like, if nothing else, yeah, we've reviewed a lot of games. As far as the channel itself, it's remained frustratingly stable. I know that's a bit of an odd thing to say, but we've mentioned in the past, our subscriber numbers don't go down, but they don't go up either. We're perpetually at 111 followers.
If you want to add to that number, go hit the follow button right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you're welcome.
When we lose followers, we gain followers back to that number. It's odd.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but it's like I'm not too worried about subscribers because, well, quite frankly, it's like I don't think anyone here is going to dedicate 8 to 12 hours a day to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because quite frankly, if you want to get serious about streaming, that's kind of what you have to put in.
Yeah.
It's like, and yeah, it's like not really prepared to do that. I don't think I'll ever be prepared to do that.
Yeah.
I could do that.
I think the closest we get is also doing the Final Fantasy 14 streams.
Right.
9 extra hours of streaming a week.
Yeah, it's like, we have added a lot of content to the block, to to the thing, and also Ogre is still technically a part of the show via that.
Mm-hmm.
In case anyone's still wondering where he went. Yeah. As far as the mainline show, he's still, undecided, I guess. He's still off the show. Maybe he comes back, sometime next year. Maybe he doesn't. That's kind of where things are. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the brief year in review. Impromptu, but gotta make sure the time gets filled somehow.
Indeed.
Anyway, don't really think we need transition music, considering we're doing this kind of freeform.
Fuck it, we're turning off the power when we're done here anyway, right? Well, I guess if we had an actual office.
Well, it's also, it's a no guest show, so those tend to be looser than usual.
One might say more fluid.
Sure, why not? I'm like, and yes, I mean, we're the fluid in question is red because we're talking about blood.
There we go. We got the segue.
Yes. I see what you did there. And we're not really talking about bodily fluid blood. We are talking about the 90s FPS blood. And yes, there is an FPS called Blood.
Because of course there is.
Well, it's not as popular. It's not Doom or Quake, but it's close.
I mean, yeah, it does hail from that era. It's like it's not. There's also a Chasm. There's trying to think. Shogo.
Strife.
I think that had it. Yeah. Well, Strafe is another new one, but I mean, this is the kind of thing that Dusk was aping.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of naming scheme. Yeah. But in spite of its name, Blood, well, isn't just about blood. It's the thing of it is it's fairly bloody, but I couldn't say it was any more bloody than any other FPS of the time. I couldn't say it was more bloody than maybe say Doom. I don't know. And ultimately, I don't think it really matters because that's not really what the hook with Blood is its theming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In case you're not familiar with Blood, which seems to be a fair amount of people, this is kind of, maybe trying to calculate where it would be on the popularity scale of 90s FPSs. Definitely less so than, say, Quake or Duke Nukem 3D or Half-Life, but more than, say, Blakestone or, I'm trying to think of that one company, Capstone. It doesn't matter. It's well known enough where it's getting a remaster next year.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll talk more about that.
Oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah, Blood didn't really do too well back in the day, but it did well enough to get a sequel.
Oh god, that sequel.
Well, I couldn't speak to it because I never played Blood 2: The Chosen.
I saw some footage. It didn't look great.
No, it's like I haven't heard good things about it. Like,
well, clearly the true name of the game should have been Blood 2: The Bloodening, because that is an actual word.
Perhaps, but they didn't go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, and Blood has a bit of an interesting development history because, all right, the game is purportedly to be developed by Monolith Productions. If you don't know who they are, well, they've done a lot of games over the years, but most recently they're the ones behind the Lord of the Rings games, the Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor games, or Shadow games, I guess, however you want to delineate. I mean, that's what they've been doing in the modern day, but going back, they got a lot of FPSs under their belt. Stuff like No One Lives Forever and Fear and Shogo, and Condemned. So, and chronologically, this is before all of that. But, well, the thing of it is, Monolith didn't their development contributions were not minimal, but kind of 11th hour, because the game was originally developed by 3D Realms. Duke Nukem 3D Realms. It's 1/3 of what's known as their build trilogy. Once again, it's like, even though 3D Realms didn't ultimately release this, they still can, it's their brainchild. And it came out in 1998, which is a good year, maybe 2 years after Duke Nukem 3D. So what's going on in Blood is a bit more advanced in terms of design and the engine itself than what you saw in Duke Nukem 3D. And that's one of the reasons why Blood is considered to be an exemplar of its genre. It's part of the ultimate refinement of the build engine, alongside Shadow Warrior. That's the other FPS they were developing at the time, and indeed that's the reason why Blood got sold to Monolith. They were developing these two games side by side, and they decided to put all their eggs in the Shadow Warrior baskets, rather than try to bring out the two in tandem. Not that seemed to work out very well for either game in terms of sales. And if I had to wager a guess, it's because they were build engine games. So if you don't know what the build engine is, I'm assuming you're at least familiar with Duke Nukem 3D. That is the engine that powers that game. And it shows. Blood is a 2D sprite FPS. And, that's coming out in 1998 on DOS, no less. Or apparently 1997. Still, the point is,
by this point, games were starting to transition to direct 3D.
Well, it's not just that. It's because Quake came out, and completely changed the narrative on first-person shooters. It's no longer about sprite, faux 3D affairs. Even though you could argue that, in terms of actual design, the Build trilogy is displaying much better, much deeper, much more elaborate level design than Quake was doing. Because Quake was like the literal start of polygonal FPS games. So, that's technology, that's developments, that's new, it's fresh, but it's also not explored. What I'm getting at is, the late stage FPS games from sprite work really showcased what you could do with the engines, but it's kind of hit the wall in the realms of relevant technology. Nobody cared about sprite-based games. It's all about them polygons.
Well, I mean, for a first-person shooter, sprites are imitating polygons anyway.
Right, but here's the thing. That's what changed with Quake. It's no longer imitation.
Right. Well, no, that's why that's it's like there is a debate to be had about like the use of sprites in certain types of games,
I'm not saying
but first person shooters.
you know, I'm not saying that these games getting ignored was right or wrong. I'm just saying what probably is. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I could be off base because I can only surmise as to why these games, sunk beneath the ocean, so to speak. Because once again, when you bring up 90s FPSs, what comes to mind? It's gonna
If
be
they're bringing up blood, they probably had an edgy teenage brother when they were growing up.
no. If they had, if somebody brings up blood, they were really into horror movies.
Yeah.
Like a lot of slasher films, or also I'd say the Evil Dead trilogy.
Probably Return of the Living Dead, probably.
Well, it's like I say that because the game has it's not a straight horror game, or at least the first one isn't. It's a horror comedy game. Like there's definitely an undercurrent of comedy.
Like the content is horror, but the tone is not.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to be horrified by it.
Yeah, it's like it's a bit of a grand irony. Like this game isn't actually scary. It's not meant to be scary. Like it's more of an homage and dark parody of Halloween, Friday the 13th, Night of the Living Dead, all of those. You're gonna there's a lot of references in this game.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Halloween.
Sure. Right. And and if you actually look at the graphics, I don't think anyone was going to really get spooked by the art design.
Oh god, that opening FMV though.
That's more scary by virtue of progress time.
The jag. Oh my god, the jag.
It's graphics you could cut yourself on.
Yeah. Once again, that has more to do with the fact that this game was made in 1997 and such 1990 CGI has not aged well.
No.
It's like ironically this game probably looks better now than it did. It looks better than like the Quake games or Half-Life.
Ooh.
Because it's got strong sprite work, it's got strong art direction, and it doesn't have to deal with early 3D polygonal models. I'm sorry, but early 3D looks so ugly now.
Yeah, there's a reason why Half-Life was written in the Source engine.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the importance of preservation, but
when the same game's still there, just with better graphics, let's go with that one.
Yeah, it's like, early 3D, no, just no.
Yeah.
As far as the plot of Blood, well, you play as Caleb, maybe a zombie?
Question mark?
I'm not exactly.
Sorry, that's a great character description.
I'm not exactly sure what he is.
I can't tell if he's a zombie or like some private investigator after his girlfriend, or
he was a gunfighter.
Those are in no way mutually exclusive, just so you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, he literally starts the game out by saying, "I live again." So, it's like I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he was fully resurrected. I'm not sure what rules and such we're working on here. All I know is he's back from the dead.
And he's pissed off and ready to kill. Wait, hold on.
I mean, that's helpful because there's a, that's another thing. Like, there's a lot of people to kill. You know, that was another advantage of still being a sprite-based FPS game at this point in time. You could have a lot of enemies on screen.
Yeah, like even if you had like 5 or 6 enemies on screen on Quake, it chugged.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like fighting more than like fighting packs of enemies was a very rare thing in Quake.
Hmm.
You know,
And
it's
you were
like
generally in an empty room with not a whole lot going on.
yeah, you know, it's like Quake compensated by having stronger enemies on balance. You know, you can see it in the Quake weapon selection. You know, like your default weapons are, you know, shotguns. You know, keep in mind that's like the beginning of the mid range in Doom. But you know, this isn't about those games' weapon progression and power creep. This is about Blood. So yeah, Blood has a lot of enemies running around. You know, especially at the harder difficulties. You know, in terms of like actual design, mechanics, and all that stuff, it's fairly typical 1990s FPS design. And what that means is you kill a lot of enemies, you find switches, you get keys, you maybe find secrets. Um,
You find secrets if you look hard enough and are lucky.
yeah,
Also hump the right wall.
you know, and like I said, you know, Blood can get big, as in like the larger, like when you get to the larger maps, you may be dealing with up to 6 different keys. This guy,
Oh
this
man,
guy-
that's like almost as many colors as there are.
I mean, in terms of keys, sure.
No, I'm just kidding about you know,
No,
red
it's
card
like-
key, blue card key.
That is kind of the apotheosis of this kind of level design, though, because, like, seriously, Doom didn't go more than 3 keys, for example. You know, I am pretty ardent. Like, Blood and Shadow Warrior are kind of the grand architectural swan song to the sprite-based FPS shooter. You know, I'm not saying those are the last ones to come out, but you know, they are among the last notable ones. At least until like this year, oddly enough.
Hi,
You know,
Dusk.
Well,
Segue back into the
everything
reason why we
retro is
started
cool
this.
again.
Now, I'm not talking about Dusk, and I'm not talking about Strafe. I'm talking about a different game called Ion Maiden.
I missed that one.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one because this one is using the build engine. Like
Wait.
Oh, like literally, actually, not just an imitation.
the actual build engine that was used back in the day. It is
Jesus.
Wow,
Yeah.
that seems difficult to do. Even
you know, it's like I couldn't say. It's like that's
Yeah, it really depends what they're doing. Like if they're running it in DOSBox or if they're trying to run it natively through Windows.
no, I believe it's native.
Oh Jesus! You
I'm
so
like-
crazy motherfuckers.
Clearly, and
Indeed.
you know, it's like how all that works is kind of incumbent on an interview. Yes, yes, I am trying to get them on the show. No luck yet.
no. Well, that sounds interesting. I mean, I guess to some extent they're probably dealing with. I mean, you're not gonna have a hard time finding. You're gonna have a hard time finding a computer these days that's like not powerful enough to run something on the build engine, probably. But
I think
it'll
my
probably take
toaster
some
has enough power.
configuring to.
Well, I mean, not only
Like sometimes sometimes backwards compatibility is less thorough than you'd like it to be. Is all I'm saying.
I haven't even gotten like not only it's like not only are they doing Ion Maiden for PC, they're doing it for modern day consoles,
Oof.
and they're working
Wow.
on an id Tech 1 game. Yes, they're working in the Quake engine, Quake 1.
Jesus.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm really interested to get these people on the program just for this shit alone.
Are you people high?
Well, I mean, high
I,
on
I,
nostalgia, clearly.
yeah, I
But
kid,
Yeah.
but looking at some of this shit, wow.
yeah, like, so the spirit is alive and well. And yeah, it's like and another reason why I think we're seeing, the likes of, Strafe, Iron Maiden, and Dusk here is because a lot of this stuff is about 20 years old, give or take a year. Like, technically speaking, I think Blood here is 21 years old. But that's kind of important in terms of nostalgia, because nostalgia kind of works in 20-year waves. You
Yep.
know,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of why, it's a big reason why we're seeing Spyro and Crash remakes,
Hmm.
because we're kind of hitting peak nostalgia for that, for this era of gaming.
Yeah, why Digimon got let out of the Hurt Locker after Cross Wars.
Mm. Crosswords wasn't that bad. Anyway, not the point.
Yeah, and that, and it's also, once again, Blood is, I'd say, you know bottom of the top of the bottom in terms of popularity. It's also um, subject to, well, IP splitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to explain, um, Blood is finally getting a remaster, um, by our friends at Night Dive Studios, no less. They are teaming up with Atari to re-release the game, because the game is in pretty desperate need of a re-release.
Mm-hmm.
For reference, the version of DOSBox they shipped the Steam version with is utter garbage, and it's
Mm-hmm.
still using the really old era 90s. You do everything with the keyboard controls.
Not everything. You can use your mouse.
When I tried to use my mouse, it tried to make me walk forward with it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of tinkering you gotta do.
Yeah, that was one of those. I don't have time for this.
I kind of figured that much.
Yeah, and once again, Blood comes from the era where FPS controls were not standardized.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, they were starting to get there about this point. Like, by the point of Blood, a mouse look was a common feature, for example. But honestly, things wouldn't get really defined until Half-Life 2. You
Hmm.
know, maybe a little earlier, but when I think of the default of modern day controls, I think Half-Life 2.
Hmm. Half-Life, Halo, stuff like that. Well, Halo Combat Evolved for PC, I should say.
Yeah. But, yeah, point of order, a little after this era. We're still in the last vestiges of really defining what an FPS is. Granted, by the time of Blood, what a 90s FPS is pretty well established, because you know like I said, the actual, what's going on in the game and what you do is pretty typical stuff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I'd say what elevates Blood is its presentation, its theming, the whole splatterfest comedy thing. Like, there's a word for that the Evil Dead trilogy used that I can't remember, but it fits.
Part of me wants to go with dark comedy, but I know that's not right.
Well, that's not the specific. I mean, it is
Yeah.
a kind of dark comedy, but
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Quick to TV tropes.
Actually, Wikipedia on this one. Uh, wouldn't be would it be Evil Dead 2? Because the Evil Dead was the
you're not looking for Grindhouse or something, are you?
no, it's not Grindhouse. It's one of, like, I'm hoping everyone here is at least has seen the Evil Dead trilogy.
I have.
I don't think I have, but sure, whatever. Go ahead.
I don't usually do horror movies.
Well, once again,
Yes,
like,
I know even ones that aren't. Okay, when I was a kid, I didn't know the difference.
um, it, well, it's each one is like, okay, the first one is straight horror, the second one is horror comedy, the third is more sweeping adventure movie than anything scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Doesn't even try to be scary at that point.
Yeah, but like even Evil Dead 2, had slapstick comedy in it. Like,
Yeah.
Sam Raimi is a big fan of the Three Stooges. Anyway, I'm not sure what the word is, but it's like Blood is definitely aping that stuff. Like, I'd say the Evil Dead 2 is one of the biggest influences on Blood. Just, and that's not surprising given how, maybe not the most well-known horror movie, but it's definitely one of the more influential. Anyway, getting back to the modern day, Blood, it's available on GOG, it's available on Steam, but it's kind of been locked in a, not a rights dispute, a rights split. Okay, short version, Monolith sold the publishing rights to what was then known as GT Interactive. That entity, buyouts and mergers, eventually becomes the modern day Atari. They still have those publishing rights. The actual franchise, the IP as it were, that's owned by Warner Brothers, because Monolith Productions was bought out by Warner Brothers. And thus, it's a situation where, it's not as bad as, say, No One Lives Forever, where no one's even sure where the publishing rights for the original games lie. It's pretty clear cut here. Atari has the publishing rights to the first two games. Blood 2, The Chosen, is also available on the digital downloads. And apparently they also have limited rights to remaster the original game, which is how Night Dive got on board. This is all an article. So that means we're probably going to get something at least along the lines of Strife Veterans Edition. It's like I'm not imagining a lot of graphical work is going to be done here because it's a sprite-based game. Or if it's going to be done, it's going to be done with things like widescreen. Maybe some alterations, but I'm like, it's going to be less the Turok remakes and more Strife, given past history. Although I suppose in order to know the full story, we'll get Steven on the program when he's really ready to talk about the Blood remaster. I haven't asked yet, but that's mainly because from what I read from the press materials, they're planning on revealing more information early next year. And that does come into, should you play Blood? I'm like, yes, but wait for the new version to come.
Yeah. Because, like I mentioned, the version of DOSBox it comes with on Steam has problems.
Yeah.
So, and the version Night Dive they're using their own like retro engine thing.
Right.
So it'll run natively in Windows instead of being emulated.
And it's probably going to have things like widescreen support. It's probably going to have at least Xbox 360 or Xbox controller support. It's probably going to have highlights on the map. Like, these are all things that Strife had. Um,
Modern accoutrements.
yeah, which is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, um,
And
so,
more important for the purists, they can be disabled like they could be in Strife.
Yeah.
right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And as far as Blood 2, well, like I said, I don't know about that one. All I've heard is it's kind of shit.
And honestly, what happens with that might really depend on how well Blood 1 does. Because if it kind of bombs, there's no real reason to bring out the inferior sequel.
Yeah. And I suppose before I close, I should mention there were 2 expansion packs to Blood. There was the there was the Monolith developed Plasma pack, and then there was the third-party developed Cryptic Passage. Uh, you know, it's not a big deal because even in the current package, you will get those alongside. The Blood One Whole Unit Edition, I believe it's called.
Did you get the joke they made?
Yeah. The point of order is, getting the complete edition of Blood is not an issue. Should you so desire to get it in the here and now. Just, kind of buyer beware. You will have to put up with a creaky version of DOSBox.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, I think that about does it for this episode of Fragments of Silicon. Once again, apologies for not having a guest interview. Hopefully that gets rectified. If it doesn't, there's not much I can say other than our bad. That being said, there is no further schedule. There's nothing scheduled for the rest of the year until New Year's Eve. So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all other holidays. Hopefully you'll be with us in 2019. Until then, I wish you good gaming.